Welcome to my Fosh film reviews of 10 films that I saw during January that haven't yet had the opportunity to review for you. With the help of my glamorous assistant, who is going to shout out at random, and I'm not going to know which ones, I am going to attempt to review the 10 films as she shouts out the names. So without further ado, shall we get started? And 3, 2, 1, go.
The Darkest Hour.
The Darkest Hour is a film that was brilliantly acted. It's one which had a couple of missteps in it. It plots Winston Churchill's rise to being Prime Minister and what he does to try and solve the Dunkirk evacuations. I think this would be an absolutely beautiful piece of film to go and see alongside of the other film, Dunkirk, as an accompaniment. But I really enjoyed this, and it's a film which I really recommend that you go and see. This is a four-fish film, and one that I'm sure we'll see Gary Oldman winning the Oscar for Best Actor. That's my view. Once again, 4 fishes for The Darkest Hour. Coco, Pixar's latest addition to their beautiful catalogue. This is a film that really would be ideal for any youngsters that are going through a death in the family and are just not sure how to cope with it. It's beautifully made. It has a completely Mexican cast and really does deal with the whole subject of people dying within the family really well, and it's teary as you would expect from a Pixar film. One I really enjoyed. As I say, it's beautifully made. It's set around the Day of the Dead that the Mexicans have once a year, where they remember all of their people that have passed over many, many years. Highly, highly recommend it. It's a tough subject, but it's beautifully put together. Well done, Pixar. 4 fishes for me. Next.
The Commuter.
The Commuter, Liam Neeson, back to, well, doing what Liam Neeson does. Basically, he's on a train. He's given a very interesting proposition, which is to try and identify somebody on that train and literally tell and eliminate them, get rid of them, kill them. He doesn't know what the circumstances are going to be, but that's what he's got to do. And it's the usual Liam Neeson fare. Basically, he's a man down on his luck. He needs the money that he's being offered to go and find this person. And there it goes. In the end, it all ends up a bit strange. The last third of this film is really a bit far-fetched, but does see Liam Neeson punching just about everybody, derailing trains, doing what Liam Neeson does best in these circumstances. It really is a film that you'd expect it to be. Really good, probably midweek after work fare. 3 fishes from me. Next.
Star Wars. The Last Jedi. What a beautiful film. This is probably the funniest of the Star Wars films to date and is really well put together. It's a fantastic film which sees Carrie Fisher's last ever performance in a movie. So from that point of view, it's quite sad, but it's really well done. I absolutely love the Star Wars films. I always have. This is a film that I've actually reviewed before, but have now seen 3 times. The last time I went to see it, I went with somebody who said, loved the creatures, loved the animals, didn't have a clue about the storyline, but it didn't matter because it's beautifully put together. Highly, 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 highly recommend this if you've not been to see it yet. See it in the biggest possible screen you can have with the best sound system anywhere and really enjoy it. This is a 5-fish film for me all the way and was one of my films of 2017 and because I've seen it now in 2018 as well, will be one of my films of 2018. If you're a Star Wars fan, I'm sure you've seen it and you'll be no surprise to hear from me. This is a 5-fish film all the way. Next. The Post.
The Post. This is a film starring Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. This really plots what happened at the end of the Vietnam War and how Nixon was really concealing what was going on and just wasn't prepared to tell the truth and tell the American public exactly what was happening until the newspapers in America found some previously sealed secret documents, and the Post plots whether or not they are going to publish them. Meryl Streep plays a lady who's thrust into the limelight as the owner of the Washington Post, and Tom Hanks plays the editor that's trying to convince her to actually go and publish all of the information. It's a true story. It's incredibly interesting, leads beautifully into other scandals. The biggest scandal probably of the Nixon presidency, which you will know all about, which is Watergate. It was a fantastic depiction of what happened. A bit boring at times, a bit slow, but I really enjoyed it. It's 4 fishes from me. Next.
The Shape of Water.
The Shape of Water. This one has been a film which has polarised opinions. There's no doubt that it's beautiful to look at. There's no doubt that it is really well shot. Guillermo del Toro, he has done what he does, and that's made a beautiful picture. It looks fantastic. Everybody has given it lots of nominations for awards, from Oscars to Golden Globes to the Critics Awards, which it actually won the Best Picture for. I really enjoyed it. It basically is Sally Hawkins falling in love with a fish, and that's not really giving it away because most of that is on the poster. It's a difficult one for me to judge because, as I say, it's really polarising, so I'm going to give you my view and not the view of the person I went with. The person I went with would say it was a 1 fish film. For me, it was a 4 fish film. I've recommended people to go and see it. I think you will be polarised by it. You will either love it or you'll hate it. I loved it. Next.
Paddington 2.
Ah, Paddington 2. What a beautiful film. I wasn't a huge fan of Paddington 1, funnily enough, but it was impossible not to love this film. Hugh Grant is the villain in this film, and he's a fantastic villain as well. In fact, this is one of Hugh Grant's best ever performances, in my opinion. Paddington is great. He actually ends up in prison. Again, that's not a plot spoiler because that's on the poster, and it's really well depicted. Paddington 2 is a film which I'm actually going to give 5 fishes to because it was just really good. And it actually had quite a lot of jeopardy in it. If you're taking young children to see it, just make sure that they're prepared for some of the scenes where there is some quite tough stuff going on for Paddington and the other members of the cast. But for me, it's a 5 fishes all the way. Go.
All the Money in the World.
All the Money in the World. This was a fascinating film. The subject was fascinating. It was about John Paul Getty and when his grandson was kidnapped and his absolute reluctance to negotiate in any way, shape or form with the kidnappers that had taken him. The other amazing thing about this film was that it was reshot just before it was due to be released. Now, the reason it was reshot was that Kevin Spacey was cast originally as John Paul Getty, and for obvious reasons which have come to light recently, it was decided that Kevin Spacey was not to be in this film anymore, and it was almost shelved and not released. But because Ridley Scott wanted to pay homage to all the other people that worked on it and actually get this film released, he reshot every single scene that Kevin Spacey had been in with an English actor called Christopher Plummer, who I have to say did an absolutely fantastic job. And I only found out this story after I'd seen the film. I did not have any idea at all that there was any way in which he wasn't originally in it. And he's in it a lot as well, so it was a really clever way in which they managed to Kevin Spacey and replace him with Christopher Plummer without being able to see the joins. For me, this was a 4 fish film, and I saw this while I was in America, and it actually prompted my family and I to go to the John Paul Getty Museum to look at all his artwork and things, which was also fascinating. Go and see this, if nothing else, just to see how clever Ridley Scott was in replacing somebody after the film had been finished. Next.
Jumanji.
Jumanji, I really liked Jumanji. This was a film where 4 high school kids that were all in detention, a little bit like Breakfast Club it reminded me of, end up inside a video game. And it's the story of them trying to get outside that video game again. And it's funny. It's really well done. There's some great moments in it. As I say, nobody thought that we really needed a remake of Jumanji. But for me, this was really well put together. And I'm really glad that I spent the time with it and went to see it. Lots of laughs in it. Lots of good action. And for me, again, it was a 4 fish film. Next.
3 Billboards.
3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. This is the favourite of all the films that I've seen, probably for 12 months. I absolutely loved it. If this doesn't win Best Oscar for Best Picture, I'd be really disappointed. I absolutely loved it. It was a film which was covering a really tough subject. A mother's daughter had been murdered, and she decided to put up 3 billboards calling out the police as to why they hadn't found the killer yet. It was so well put together. It was a black comedy that, as you were laughing at it, you thought, I shouldn't actually be laughing at this. You were questioning yourself. Fantastically acted. The town which it is set in was brilliant. There was a really fantastic part played by the local police. Sam Rockwell in particular played a racist, but somebody that you couldn't help just
being on his side really in the end. It was just, as I say, a black comedy which was tough to watch at times, but very funny, but you questioned as to why you were watching it. I would actually like to have spent more time in that town with the characters, and the ending for me was perfect. This is 5 fishes, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. If it doesn't win the Oscar for Best Picture, I will be highly surprised. Next. So there it is, the 10 films that I've seen in January. I really encourage you to go and see all of them, actually. There wasn't really any stinkers in there. There usually is. The one film I did see just before January, which I haven't reviewed yet, was Pitch Perfect 3. Little warning for you, do not go and see it. It is absolutely awful. Anyway, I'm going to get back to reviewing the films as I see them. Look forward to talking to you throughout 2018, and have a fantastic year at the movies. Cheers and see you soon.